Yep.
I remember getting ready for a vision night at our church, and usually we did it on the second Wednesday of a new year, and we did it that year. And I got up and shared where I thought God was going to take us, where He wanted to take us at for that next year, maybe the next few years. And everything went good until I said something that I probably shouldn't have. Have you ever done that? Have you ever, you're preaching and you think something and it doesn't get filtered and it comes out? I said, you know what, and here's something else we want to do as a church. We want to plant 2,000 churches. Why did you say that? You don't have a clue. How in the world are we going to do it? But it was in my heart. It was something that I wanted to do. And that's where Billy Hornsby came onto the scene. We had a golf game together, and it was like an interview. I told him about my desire to plant churches, and I said, you know what, we've tried before on just a limited basis, but I don't have the capacity to manage churches in other places, and it just hasn't worked real well, but I want to plant churches. He said, how many? And I said, well, how about 2,000? And he didn't even blink an eye. I said, I don't know how, but I'd love to do it. And he said, well, I think we can make this happen. And then I sunk the putt and just beat him like a 2-year-old at Walmart.
You know, the problem that I had seen was that in working in the cell church movement back in the 90s, was that we were kind of suggesting that the cell church model was the answer to the growth problem of churches that were struggling. But when I would go to these churches to visit them, do seminars and stuff, they still weren't growing, even though they would transition to the cell church model. And then one day I was invited to go do a seminar out at Seacoast. Greg Surratt, you know, one of his assistants, Sam Lesky, had called me several times, and I required that at least 10 churches come together before we would do a seminar, and they wanted to just do it for Seacoast. And I wouldn't do it until finally they offered me this big bunch of money, and I said, well, yeah, that 10 churches, that's nothing. We'll be glad to come and do this. And of course, it wasn't for me, it was for the organization I was working for. So after being in the Sunday services at Seacoast, I realized, hey, there is hope for the local church if we can marry these two concepts. And so it really inspired me that, hey, we could do this. If we could put our two positive components together, I think it would be the key for planting life-giving churches that were relevant and would be able to grow and really impact cities. And so that was kind of the thoughts and that first birthed the Ark as we know it today.
You know, planting churches is good, and that's the passion that I have. But if I didn't want to plant churches, just the relationships that we have with guys that are like-minded it's worth being a part, worth being involved. I could pool my resources with other churches and do more than we could ever do by ourselves. It's incredible to be able to tell your church, you know what, we invested a portion of your missions money in the most effective means of evangelism that there is.
What ARC does is takes a young couple who has a dream to do something important and significant for God, and we partner with them, and from a year out till unlimited years after they plant, we walk it out with them. Right now, we're planting a church every 12 days. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? And the day will come that we're planting a church every 3 days, and then even more, because our goal is to plant 2,000 churches by 2020.
Why not everybody? Why wouldn't you want everybody in every city in America and ultimately around the world to have access to a life-giving church that could literally change a family like my family was changed? It could change the world. And that's part of what keeps me going and going after it and doing it. And I can't imagine why a pastor wouldn't want that. And you know what, if can I talk to them? If you're wondering whether you ought to do it, go all in. I mean, let's do this together, and let's change the world.
I know you've probably been involved with a missionary here or there, but just imagine leveraging 2% or 10% of what you're giving every year to multiply everything that you do locally and everything that you do globally. And imagine the power of that multiplied by 2,000. It's bigger than we ever dreamed it was going to be, and there's no telling how great it will be if we all join together and do it together.